Exciting time for us. This has been a long time coming. We initially took ownership of this property, not just the property for where we're going to talk about the iconic park tonight, but also all of the property that we're currently on, where the library is, where City Hall has been built. Bought that land in 2008. And since 2008, is that better?
Yeah. Yes.
Got it? Since 2008, we have seen a ton of progress in this area. There's only a portion of this property that we've purchased that's out of the floodplain. And so some of the buildings that you see here now have been built on property that's out of the floodplain. There's still questions of how do we build some other stuff that's within the floodplain? How do we remediate that floodplain so that we can build things? We've had discussions in 2014 on the general plan and how we're going to create village centers and what is this going to look like and how do we get people here with mixed uses, with different types of activities, and truly bring the community together. What is it going to be that brings the community together to celebrate together? Beyond that, we, a few years ago, maybe 3 years ago, started talking about this concept of an iconic park or a destination park. And the concept of this is that this is a place that obviously is going to provide an awesome amenity for our community. It's going to be something that will be a hallmark for our community, something that we can be known for, but also support small businesses. And let's get some more tourism in here. Let's bring people to this community and think of the Scottsdale McCormick Ranch Train Park, or the iconic Gilbert Park, or Phoenix Civic Center. All of these types of things many of us have been to and visited. Why? Because they're unique and special. And so that's kind of the concept that we've had and have developed over the past few years with our futures planning as we've looked into the future to see what the city of Maricopa could be. And so that's really what got us kicked off to where we are today. In futures planning this year, as our council was doing their strategic planning, they said, move forward and let's get a master plan together for this area. What could it look like? What are some concepts? How do we develop a park in this area? And that first step is the master plan step. So really meant to be a 30,000-foot view of what a park could look like and some amenities that might be included. It's not necessarily a final list, but it's a sample, a visioning of what that could look like. So a 30,000-foot view, and that's really where we got to. And so today will be a presentation a little bit from our consultants as they kind of show some of that visioning and what that looks like. But ultimately our goal today is to come back and say, all right, what's the next step? What's the direction? Are we ready to move forward to really plan this out on a more detailed level, start to develop a budget cost, start to develop a timeline and a horizon for what this may look like? And so that's really what we want to do today. That's the end goal. We'll get back to that towards the end and have some more of the conversation at that point. But I want to first turn it over to Rocky Brown, who is our Parks and Recreation Director, and then we'll have a short presentation there and go into our consultants as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Critter. All right, Mayor, Council, Parks Board, great to see you this evening. So really quick, before we get into the design of this iconic park, I wanted to take you back a little bit through the Maricopa Park system, where it's been, where it's at right now, and where it's going. So you get kind of a sense of kind of where we're at and the next kind of exciting projects that are coming up before this park. So first, back 2006, just a few days ago, Kana Park opened. You can see that groundbreaking photo. It was always hung in the old City Hall. That was a great park, and that served the community really well for a long amount of time until Copper Sky came online in 2014. We always said Kana Park was loved to death because we don't know how we fit so many kids and community members in that little park for as long as we did. But it was really exciting when Copper Sky opened in 2014. One thing I've noted since I came back a few months ago, if you went and tried to build Copper Sky today, it'd probably be an extra $100 million in costs. So I think the city was really smart at doing that and prioritizing how they did. Then recently we opened the first phase of Lakeview Park. So that was exciting, and I've got some updates on the next phase that's just around the corner. All right, parks, what do? Are they just a place for you to have fun? Yes, but also they fit our strategic priorities. So I just wanted to point out a couple of them, highlight a couple that relate to Parks and Rec. And that'd be 4.1, which is where we're trying to give Maricopa residents the greatest outdoor recreation experience we can, and also draw on visitors to the community. It also ties into Action 5.1, which is more of our tourism where we want to bring people into the community. They bring their dollars to the community. It helps our local businesses succeed. Also drives sports tourism, brings communities in to stay in hotels and things like that. So those are just a couple of the strategic priorities that parks can satisfy. All right, high level. There's different types of parks. So first level, you have your neighborhood parks or your pocket parks. These are generally kind of on the smaller side, 1 to 10 acres. Maricopa is really lucky right now. They have a lot of master plan communities. And so those things are being satisfied by those HOAs. And they're the little neighborhood parks kids can walk to after school, play on a playground. Maybe they have some small courts on them. We have quite a few neighborhood parks sprinkled out through the city. Next, we have our community parks. Those are more the 10 to 30 acres. So that would be Pecana. It did its job. We treated it like a district park, but it's that more 30-acre park range, which Pecana is, serves a broader community, but not quite an entire community. A district park is Copper Sky. That's what came on board. That's a more district park. It's regional. It draws other people in. We're in that 90-acre range, and it can host a lot more people than your neighborhoods or your community parks. And finally, there's special use parks. So some communities, they run their own zoos. Some of them have nature centers, anything that's a unique attraction. And we would consider this Micro Heritage Park. It's got that Zephyr train down there. It's developing with like a performance stage. That's one of a kind. It's unique. You really can't find anything like that in the state. So we're definitely checking all of these boxes right now. But there's one part we don't have, and that's the vision of this, is having an iconic park, something that's one of a kind, something that's a regional draw, something that's must-see, something that when you bring your kids to it, they have multiple different experiences depending on what they want to do that day. It's just not something that's really a showstopper, and I think that's kind of the genesis of what went into this design process that you're going to learn more about. So there's our wonderful community. It's about 43 square miles, and I just kind of want to show you the impact of the current parks we have. So first we talked about 2006, Pecana came on, and it was that community park. Served a pretty good chunk of the community, but not obviously the whole 43 square miles. Next, the regional park, Copper Sky, came on board. Bigger park, bigger draw, but we still have a lot of square miles we're trying to cover, right? And we get a lot of access to our community. First phase of Lakeview came on, so we're finally kind of getting some parks, bigger parks in that north part of town where a lot of our concentrated neighborhoods are. And we have another phase coming for that. We have Heritage Park coming in kind of the heart of our city, smaller park, but it still can make a big impact. You can see we're kind of spreading out our growth areas and covering more of the city. Something to consider is as Maricopa grows eastward, we're probably going to need a park out there, a future East Park. We don't have a plan for that right now, but it's just something to kind of plant a seed and think about. And as we talk about the Civic Center Park, different part of town, but also an exciting part of town because there's a lot of synergy with the building we're in right now. We have City Hall here, we have the police station here, so it all kind of makes a bigger campus or a district. Coming up next, so we've got a couple project updates besides the park that are coming up that I wanted to share with you all. So 2025, we just had the groundbreaking for Heritage Park, and it's going to be opening before we know it. We're hoping for December it to be open for the community. Then later this summer, looking probably July 2026, the Copper Sky Fieldhouse will be coming online. And then we are ready to kick off design on Lakeview Park Phase 2 later this year, and then do construction next year. And I always love highlighting those groundbreaking ceremonies. Those are the dates that you remember, you know. But first, Heritage Park. So custom playground that's themed like a train set, which is really cool. It ties in well with the Zephyr that's there. And the Zephyr is going to serve as a backdrop for a performance stage. So kind of hits that arts and cultural aspect that maybe we're missing out on in a few parts of town. And then it also features the Maricopa Historical Timeline Walk. So kind of tying into our history, giving the community to learn about how we came to be and all the different names Maricopa had and how it developed over time. So definitely not on the big side of parks, but definitely has a big impact and is covering a lot of bases. Fieldhouse. So we have a lot of indoor needs that we're trying to play catch up on. So we have a lot of programs that we offer as a city. There's a lot of other competing interests that want indoor court space. The Fieldhouse will satisfy that. It's going to have 4 full-size indoor basketball courts. They can also be used as 6 indoor volleyball courts or 12 indoor pickleball courts. Gonna add some new restroom facilities. There's also a room like this that's available if you're able for rentals or community meetings or large tournaments. There's also a lobby with a tournament desk. So we're really excited for this because I think this is going to be a new sports tourism item to check because there isn't a lot of gyms of this size, not only in Maricopa but in the valley. So this will definitely be an attraction. I've got some latest renderings of it. So this is the south side. So if you walk out the front desk of Copper Sky, those front doors, this is what you would see, that field house building. That's just a placeholder name. We're going to work with council on an official name in November, but that's just a placeholder. But you can kind of see the branding that could go along with that building. Here's the southwest corner, so kind of by the Veterans Memorial area right through here. So you can see kind of what it looks like, the scale of it. It's going to be really cool. It's going to look nice next to the Multi-Gen Center. Right when you pull into the building, it's going to be really, I think, very attractive. Other side, this is what I was talking about. There's a tournament lobby or like a waiting lobby where it has a different access point. People can go right in from the parking lot. You can have a tournament desk there, check people in. Pretty cool. They've already poured the foundation and put up the beams if you've been by lately. And if you go, I went out and stand in the middle of it, and it's a massive space. Like it is very large. There's a shot of the indoors. So what's cool is with those divider curtains, we can break it up into 4 individual full-size basketball courts or have one big facility that's wide open if you want to host a large event. We're actually excited. We met with a martial arts promoter that wants to bring a big regional competition here and book hotel rooms and have a nice big tournament there. So once the word gets out, it's going to be very popular. Okay, next is Lakeview Park, Phase 2. So on the east side, we have our 2 Little League fields right now. David and I, we went out on site and met with our Little League and talked about them. Okay, we got these 12 additional acres. What would be like your dream scenario? Because right now our Little League is basically spread out between 3 parks. They're using not just Lakeview, but Lacana and Copper Sky. And so we got their wish list. If we could fit 3 fields in on this area, a baseball field and a couple softball fields, they could consolidate their things down to one site. Makes their life a lot easier because just one site, one Saturday, and the board can do everything they need to do, and that would free up additional fields at our other parks for other users that are looking for fields or other tournaments that want to come in. So that's why we're excited about that and are kind of pushing that along. So, all right, and I believe my next slide. Before I got into my next slide, I wanted you to quickly go back in time with me to the year 2008. Okay, quite a long time ago. So 2008 was the last time we actually had a parks master plan. We haven't had an update in a long time. In 2008, back then, that's when the most popular movie was Iron Man. They made 37 more movies since that came out. Tom Brady only had 3 Super Bowl rings back then. He was under 7 and he retired. And the very first iPhone came out and they put out 26 more. So we're kind of behind the times when it comes to our plans. We've done a lot of work, but it's kind of we need to capture it and make sure we're memorializing it and also have a plan for the next 10 years. So we're excited to do a master planning process with the community. And so I've done this with an agency before. It's really an extensive public outreach process. Meeting with the mayor and council members, meeting with our parks boards, talking to other city boards and commissions, talking to your youth groups, talking to your sports groups, finding all that public feedback you can get to find out what the true needs of the community are. Also engaging online, having a website where people can leave their feedback. I see the articles and people write a lot of Facebook comments, but we want to capture that and put it in a plan and make sure we're actually putting it towards something. You can do a statistically valid survey that will go out to the community and really get a good sampling size of what people want to see. Like we have to use our tax dollars wisely. We want to make sure we're investing them in the right ways. I've done a part of the sports fields needs assessment. So it can tell you how many fields you need today and how many fields you're going to need in 10 years and how many you're going to need in 20. And that way it can be incorporated into your sports planning. And it can incorporate not just your local needs, but any sports tournament needs that you're going to need or have goals to meet. It'll inventory your park inventory, do an analysis of it. Because we talk a lot about fields, but there's also courts, there's playgrounds, there's restrooms, there's ramadas, all those things we need to have an inventory so we can have a plan of what can be moving forward. Incorporating trails and multi-use, talking about future needs and possibly giving ideas on how we can fund some of these projects in the future. From there, but what we're here to talk about today is Civic Center Park. So just so you know, it's just east of here. This is about 55 acres. Jeff and John have worked on a really cool plan, so I'm going to invite them up to display that for you. But just so you know, it's right out here. And this would fit that need in this part of town.
Thank you, Rocky. Good evening, everybody. Hope you're all having a good evening so far. We're really excited to present this to you. My name is Jeff Velasquez. I am a principal landscape architect with J2 Design here in Phoenix. And with me is John Kane, principal architect with Architecton in Tempe. Done a lot of parks and recreation facilities, open space facilities together through the years. And we worked on Copper Sky together, the whole complex of facilities and aquatic centers and such. So getting to this step here, and we'll both be narrating this thing together, we're really excited to present this because when city staff brought us on, nobody really had quite the exact vision of where we were going to go and what we were going to do with this master plan. And really everybody was pushing each other towards developing something iconic, developing something that's a destination that can help with economics, with field trips, with really giving an identity, not only to Maricopa, but to the site and the facilities itself. And as we kind of worked with city staff to determine what is this going to be, really city staff really became part of the design team, and everybody integrated into one with the brainstorming ideas, and it's been a fantastic process. But one of the things that we talked about was this love letter to Arizona, this love letter to Maricopa, right? Iconic park. We kind of called it also Park 48 Civic Center. It's almost like making a rock and roll album. It has a bunch of different studio names. We haven't quite decided what it's going to be, but we will. And really, we want it to be this destination, a truly iconic space that isn't really seen anywhere else through Arizona, really. And I think the two firms that work together have spent our careers, John and I and our teams, creating iconic destinations. And we really want to take this to the next level, and your staff has been instrumental in helping to lead that. So we'll kind of walk through real briefly. Can I point with this? Yeah, perfect. Okay, we'll talk through kind of the big picture here briefly, kind of walk through the 55 and 57 acres of the park site. I think most of you are familiar probably with this image, this PDF. We have Bolin down here. We have the Park Plaza on the west, and then we'll have different access points, roadway improvement, or at least half street to connect up here. We do have drainage infrastructure. Our Dura Civil Engineering is on our team, and they will be kind of working on the design for this, but basically we're going to channelize this. It's essentially a basin that will overflow to the north, but we'll capture that drainage effectively on the west side. Right now, the team's intent is to limit the width of this channel as a DG bottom with an aesthetic side slope element. It could be gabions, it could be gabion mattress, really trying to give you as much bang for the buck on the acreage of the park site itself. So that's why that basin is on the west. As you come into the park, what we're gonna do is kind of walk through this plan, and then we'll give you a bunch of 3D visuals and images, architectural images, and all kinds of exciting things. So bear with us on the plan here. We'll walk you through the plan, and then we'll get you into the exciting 3D image aspects of what we intend for the vision here. As you come into the park, one of the things that city staff and our team wanted to really develop is this kind of iconic entry. And we think this kind of canyon type roadway with overhead rock boulder aspects that have climbability for bouldering and even rope climbing and such can all be integrated into that. So there'll be this kind of ode to Arizona, whether it's Cochise Stronghold, Tempe Papago Buttes, Cathedral, Rock, that kind of iconic imagery will be at the entrance here, and it'll be like no other entry into any Arizona park, especially municipal park. As you come into this area, you'll see parking, lots of parking for all the different amenities, and kind of the central core area here John will be talking quite a bit today about the cloud. And so a lot of this concept here is based on what we're calling the ribbon. And so the ribbon will take drainage, rainfall, stormwater drainage into green infrastructure and kind of an environmental, capture that water for the health of plant systems and that type of thing, and tree systems. That ribbon is kind of sprinkled throughout here in terms of a rainwater capture system. And there'll be trails and walkways to kind of integrate into that. So that ribbon really starts with the story of water. And I think John really has been instrumental in kind of talking about the excitement of water, what it means. Arizona is so critical, but monsoon, storm, and we thought what perfect way to kind of complete that ribbon than with the architecture explaining kind of, the cloud. And so the cloud will be a huge element with integrated play systems. We'll talk a lot about that here in a few minutes. Next to the cloud will be kind of this red rock, Sedona type Oak Creek Canyon splash pad zone. And it will be like no other splash pad zone. Materials, colors, form, texture, shade, all to be this kind of iconic destination splash pad zone that is even interactive with some elements. As we come up to the main spine here, and this kind of east-west spine breaks up what we think might be a phase 1 down here and a possible phase 2 development, just in terms of cost elements and what's feasible. But that hasn't been decided yet, with staff or anybody. But we think that spine, allowing for food truck access, major community gatherings, kind of similar to how you do the Wild West Music Fest at Copper Sky, this kind of really wonderful spine that links both parking lot elements, vehicular access, and really good electric hookups, 100 amp hookups, whatever they're going to be for all of those types of festival uses that would occur here. We do have a relief map of Arizona. We're doing this ode to all things Arizona. We thought, what better than to have a scaled relief map, maybe a little bit smaller than this room, that actually has relief and topography, QR codes, and interactive capabilities to encourage people to go visit these spaces around the state. And you can get a flavor for that by just walking through this area. We would like it to be a relief map that actually is scaled appropriately towards white mountains and deserts and low spots, and really be kind of a field trip destination, right? So that you can learn from it, whether you're young or old, kids, elementary school, whatever. As you come up into the northern part, we have the ribbon cutting through. We have indigenous tributes here. We thought maybe some of the local indigenous communities could be part of that and tell that story, interpret that area, and really that be a learning area. Lots of parking up here on the road connection, maintenance yard, kind of community gathering zones where you could rent out facilities for weddings or special events. And then we have the North Country sport courts. We would have pickleball, shaded areas, restroom areas, volleyball zones, and then everything would be themed. So Antelope Canyon, pump track, you'll see some images of what we intend for that. So everything's themed towards this Arizona iconic destination element. As you come around the east here down, you would have this cloud-type amphitheater structure that will be for concerts and special events on the Great Lawn. And John will talk about kind of some of that iconic imagery on that amphitheater as well, which could have restrooms built into the back of it and some beautiful lighting aspects. That also plays into the cloud ribbon structure, ribbon theme. As you come south, one of the things that we think is really important is this public-private partnership aspect, especially in the phase 1 zone, where you have kind of private businesses and vendors that might partner so that the city isn't taking on all of the costs or even liabilities on certain things. And so we think that you could have like a zip line privately developed and privately operated, like no other location, right, in Arizona municipal parks, and have 7 different station zip lines throughout. Those are the red little squares you'll see throughout the park on the plan. And those could be zip lines that go across the park and really have this outstanding destination element connecting different areas of that. So there's about 7 of those zip line stations, and those are themed and modeled after the Northern Arizona kind of fire tower, fire watch. So everything is themed Arizona again. As you come south, you have the 3.5 acre lake. This would be an urban fishing lake with cloud-type ramadas here along the edge. And then we have another public-private element here, the Sierra Estrella ninja course. So you would have an active kind of ninja ropes course that would be really kind of fostering healthy living and activities, and you could have tournaments there and such. And as you come south, there are retail pads built in. And one of the things that the city staff really wanted to do was make sure that we were providing retail pads for whether they're coffee shops, whether they are restaurants fronting the lake, really trying to build on economics. And I think all of this is about really economics and placement and destination environment. And so making a site like no other is what we're all kind of aiming to do here. And there would be a potential pedestrian bridge eventually that crosses Bolin, and that would be themed into the cloud structure and some of that entry as well. Anything in the overview? Okay. So that's kind of the 55, 56 acre overview. And John, if you want to step up, we're going to start to get into some of the architecture and what it means.
Thanks, Jeff. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council, Parks and Rec Board. So this has been an amazing experience, getting to work with the staff and Jeff's team and our team, trying to come up with something really special and unique for your community. And the centerpiece of this park, we've been looking for something extremely iconic, something that's really going to set the stage and hopefully bring a lot of people here to do that. And we brainstorm over and over and over in terms of what is this. But again, I think when we start thinking about Arizona, we think about the importance of water, which is a common theme throughout the park. Where does the source of that water and how important clouds are in our landscape? And we got really excited about this idea, this notion of almost this cloud pavilion, this notion of something extremely iconic that can do a lot of things, tell the story of water, provide a lot of shade, which we all know we need, and then also possibly be this infrastructure for playgrounds and other events type things that can happen within and around it. So we're going to kind of walk through kind of where we are today. This is an idea. It will definitely not look like this when we're done, but the idea, hopefully the spirit of this, if we get the opportunity to develop this further, we're really excited about what this can become. But how do we build it? How do we make this accessible? So I think some of the things that we've been playing with, here we go, is first off the scale. When we talk about something iconic, what does the scale of that mean? So we just started thinking about what's already in Arizona and start kind of figuring out how this might compare, whether it's Jan Luckman's art piece in the middle of City of Phoenix, the Fountain Hills fountains, which I didn't realize there's 3 different levels depending on how many pumps are running in City Hall. But how is this going to read against the landscape of Maricopa? How far? What's the right height? And that's still a study that we want to evaluate and study further. The idea, though, is can this cloud, this pavilion in the sky, can it talk about rain? Can the structure, be expressive of what happens in a storm? How can we access it? The scale of this is such that we want to make this accessible to all. So everybody that can use this of all ages and all physical abilities can actually participate in this event. How the ground plane starts kind of interacting with it, the playgrounds, the zip lines, as Jeff mentioned, the play structures, the landscape, and then what happens at night. I mean, as we know, the clouds in our amazing desert skies in terms of how they light up at night or in the sunsets. These are things that we want to explore and really kind of evaluate as we move forward with this. The possibility of digital screens in terms of also, is there another way to communicate other ideas, what's happening on the park? Can this coexist with the amphitheater? So if a band's there, can it also be part of that experience? So there's a lot of potential that we started exploring, and it just kind of, and the idea of this idea of a cloud is it's ephemeral and it looks different throughout the day, throughout the night. And from all the different views, from underneath, from a distance, all of these things are meant to be studied. So we've been and again, these are so early on. I can't emphasize it enough. But again, it's about how do we express this kind of big, bold idea that potentially could be something really profound for your community. And then other things, other slides, we've been trying to figure out ways everything has more than one purpose. If we're really smart about this and we're spending public dollars, how does everything do more than one thing? So the accessibility to playgrounds, where grandma and grandpa can be there with the kids, but they can still be participating within this experience at multiple levels. We create view decks. Again, the shade that this can provide, we all know how important that is. And then what is that amazing experience underneath this, and that kind of dynamic interplay between the ground plane and the cloud pavilion. All still we just get so excited about the potential, and we can't wait to hopefully be able to take this to the next level. What do the playgrounds become? We've talked about ideas, again, tying it back to Arizona, like Mogollon Rim, when the clouds come over, and what that landscape feels like. We've all been there, right? When it's summer, that's where we go, right, to get out of the heat. How can we kind of capture this spirit and the excitement of those storm clouds as they roll over the landscape? And then again, the use of lighting and color, and then what happens in the transformation at night. There's just tons of potential, whether the screens are actually inside, and this could actually be another kind of visual experience that one can participate in, and again, if it plays with the amphitheater. So speaking of the amphitheater, so this idea of the cloud is also something, we wanted something to unify the entire park. As Jeff mentioned, we're trying to basically create a variety of venues throughout the park that represent different places, and iconic places throughout our state. And the idea of the cloud can be this common theme that kind of carries through all the shade structures and all the things that might be a lot more ephemeral about, but unify. So there might be a language that holds the whole park together. So just, again, ideas of what this can be, and again, playing with the lighting potential. And as Jeff mentioned, this might not be just the amphitheater, it could be toilets, it could be other kind of program elements. Still a lot to be explored and studied. Let's throw it back to Jeff. Thank you.
Thanks, John. So you saw some of those images of some of kind of the video boards up on that cloud, and we're thinking, way out of the box here with your staff. We're thinking that, through IT at the city, if you're a family and this could keep you coming back, you could take a selfie image of your family, your kids, whatever, if you want. You can upload it maybe to the IT department, and boom, they're up there for the next 2 weeks. If they sign the disclosure, however you want to do that, very truly interactive, right? Like making you want to come back and put the next item up there. And maybe there's people visiting from around the world, and maybe they tag where they're from, and that goes up there. And so a park like no other, a destination municipally, like no other. And the playground images that you saw are just early images. Those aren't really designed yet, but they would be inclusive play. It would be designed for play of all ages and abilities, including parents and grandparents being able to take walkers up those ramps. And then when you get up to those ramps, we think designing, like John said, slides off of those structural ramps safely to come down and really use that structure to be an outstanding playground like no other. So thanks, John. Good walkthrough. So at the entry, at the southwest area that you saw where off Bowlin you come into the park, we've been working with city staff on creating kind of iconic bouldering imagery, Arizona imagery as you drive in. And we think that through glass fiber reinforced concrete, maybe it won't be this high, maybe the scales change. These are just early napkin sketch images, but that you come into this major entry and it's beautiful. And you wind through the drive and you come through this visual area with signage, and it all starts to theme through with walking trails. So if you're at the library, if you're working at City Hall, you can take your exercise loop and do your 1 mile to 2 mile loop, eat your lunch on a bench, and really enjoy that. But it's open for community members, it's open for everybody, and it all ties in, like John said, themed to Arizona, true kind of iconic destinations. These are some various images of that area. So it's not just a visual entry, it's an aesthetic experience that you can walk through. And you would have iconic entry monumentation, an arch drive that may even serve as a bridge over that drive coming in. We haven't gone that far in terms of the ideation of all the ideas and such, but that's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. And then adjacent to that, right near the lake area, you could theme that into boulder and rope climbing zones with rubberized surfacing areas, and you could have that either be accessible anytime, you could have that as a private vendor, public-private partnership that comes in and kind of runs that. It can be a number of different ideas that you can run some of these elements. And some of it would be kind of more of the man-made type play elements, like you see here.
At
least a few.
It's wanting to shut us down. Thank you. So those are some of those images here. We're thinking like at the northeast, we talked about everything would be themed. We're not going to get into every item and every detail, but at the northeast corner of the park, we talked about that skate park kind of pump track, cycle track for all wheels, and that could be themed Antelope Canyon or a number of different themes where you do iconic formwork, imagery, color, texture, kind of interpretive elements and signage that really speak to what Antelope Canyon is. You know, it's a beautiful, immersive experience. And so, you know, that on its own could be its own destination element, all its own, any of these individual areas. One of the exciting areas that, this is kind of looking north towards what John was describing as a cloud, would be this kind of red rocks, slide rock type splash pad zone, kind of interactive, effective use of water with smaller cloud ramadas themed, you know, against the lake edge. And so really creating very, very good play value out of multiple water features, whether they're real boulders, stacked stone, glass fiber reinforced concrete theme areas, GFRC rock where you have water flowing out of it, even like a horseshoe bend mini kind of interactive step through play feature. The city staff really wants to try to, you know, theme this very Arizona iconic. So these are some images that could convey what we might be able to do with a themed kind of Sedona type Oak Creek Canyon splash pad. Even some interactive elements here where you can actually pump something and, you know, the water comes out and flows. Lots of shade, like John said. And you can see zip lines in the back with the themed fire tower, kind of Arizona fire tower, Northern Arizona zip line element. Fencing would be themed, you know, kind of a Phoenix type materials, Phoenix school of rusted steel with a primer on it so it doesn't wipe off on your clothes. Everything would be themed. And image of the night view with kind of the you know, electronic imagery that could be changed up, you know, however you want to. You could display concerts, concert imagery, you can display advertising for special events coming up, and fully accessible playground that really is a destination all its own. And that is the brief walkthrough of Iconic Park as it sits right now.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. It's the first time City Council has seen it, first time Parks and Rec has seen it. Some really interesting creative ideas. So at this point, well, first I want to thank the Parks and Rec Committee because I was at the fishing derby and many of you came out and helped, and that was such a huge success. I know you're doing the Neon Park, Neon Run, and maybe that's just the Be Awesome folks, but maybe Parks and Rec is coming. But Stagecoach Days and the elements that you've been able to help in, thank you so very, very much. I thought it was a huge success. And thank you for being here, and thank you for serving. All right. So at this point, I would like to turn it over to the Parks and Rec Committee and City Council members for questions that you might have or comments. And we do have microphones at each of the tables, two, I think. So pass around the microphone. But who would like to speak first? Who has a question? Yes, Councilmember North.
Yeah, can you?
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. How much is this going to cost?
So we haven't gotten into every dollar here. This is pretty pretty high level, 30,000 foot. I think the next step would be kind of getting into feasibility, doing some cost modeling, cost estimates for the different zones. Generally around, parks and recreation right now is running for municipal parks, sports complexes, iconic destination, anywhere from $800,000 to $1.1 million an acre. This would be in many areas in advance of that, of course. So, if you're going to build Copper Sky complex, which we worked on years ago, that would probably run in the $1 million an acre cost. That's everything: restrooms, electrical, sewer, all that kind of stuff. So we don't have cost data specifically because we're just getting the big picture idea at 10,000 feet. But that would be part of a next step feasibility, most likely, in terms of talking to public-private partnerships and looking at cost modeling and such.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to talk about? Well, I think it's really, obviously this is cool, but I think it's really hard to have a discussion about this without having a cost associated with it, because we have so many competing priorities within the city that it looks expensive. It looks really expensive. And not only the initial cost of what it would take to build this, but then I see very high ongoing maintenance and operation costs associated with it that will impact our budget for years to come. And so it's, that's what concerns me. And I think that we had a city manager Bitter had prefaced this with the council members. And so I went and asked some community members what their thoughts are on it. And I think that I love what Rocky is doing in terms of a parks assessment, but I really feel like doing this is premature to our parks assessment. I want to know what we need now, in 5 years, in 10 years. I want to know what the community wants. I want to know what their needs are, what their wants are, what their desires are, before I'm comfortable proceeding forward with something this massive. But it's really cool. It's really cool.
How many phases do you think this could or would be?
Thanks. Obviously a difficult question because we're at this 30,000 foot view. And I think that's really, even to answer Councilmember Moore's question, and then following up as well on Councilmember Learman's question, but if we were to go from the master plan level down to more of the site planning level, that's where we start to understand truly what amenities are going to be able to be put in this area. And for example, if the cloud's even feasible, if something like that can be built, and if it can, how much is it going to cost? So right now we may have these high level placeholders for dollars. Until we get into that actual planning stage, we won't know the true firm estimates. And so that's the part that's a little bit difficult. But also along that same line, in terms of phasing, this could be stretched out for 20 phases. It could be, for example, each of these segments. So for example, the Antelope Canyons skate park or bump track, that could be a new amenity in year 7 of our capital improvement plan. And, hey, we're going to open up this new state park this year, or hey, we're going to open up this new state park this year, and phase it like that. And so those things I think are still part of the future discussion of what happens were we to move forward with that site plan specific, understand the costs better, understand the feasibility and viability of what these phases may look like in the future. So I think both are a little bit to be determined. We're trying to keep a high level view of what may be feasible right now and a high level view of what the costs may be. Obviously those will be dialed in where we move forward.
Thank you, City Manager. I wanted to add on to that. Cost is hugely important. Priority is hugely important. But also in looking at this, we have been planning something like this since 2008, something that's iconic. And so I don't want to lose vision of what could be done in various phases. But you also have to calculate in what the economic benefit is to the city. It's not just cost, there's economic benefit, and that's why it is seen as slightly different one-off from a regular park. As we put it down as an iconic park, a tourist attraction. So we want to always encompass all of the features in terms of not just cost, but what's the economic development to the community, to our businesses, to our residents, So I didn't want to let go of that and let it just be all about cost. It has to be about all of the elements. What else? Who else has questions, comments? Yes, Kevin.
Is this thing on? Okay, first, yeah, that is amazing. And as somebody who can barely draw a stick man, I'm always blown away by the concepts you guys can come up with. It really is about cost, and it is about priorities, right? The last parks we built here, with the exception of the lakes, sports fields anyway, was Copper Sky, right? And the size of the city's pretty much doubled since then. And while the lakes is a great addition, and building onto that is a great addition, that's kind of limited use because it's little league fields, right? So you can't get adult sports there. We don't have any multi-purpose fields going in, soccer fields for football, lacrosse, all that stuff. So I'm not saying this is a terrible idea. It's not. It's amazing, and I do think it would bring tourism. Will it bring people that come down, for multiple days at a time and fill hotels? I don't know about that. There's certain concepts that I've seen people talk about as far as what citizens of Maricopa, what they do want in parks. The pump track, the playgrounds, the lake, rock climbing, splash pads, zip lines. That's all very cool stuff, and I think that all people will get a lot of use out of that. But we definitely need more fields, and I look at that cloud, and as cool as that is, and as awesome as that is of having a town, that could probably build 10 fields just in that cloud structure itself. So it is cost and priorities, like Mayor Smith said. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out, but I would really like to see us also focusing on adding fields, because we really need them. In the futures planning meeting, that was one of the things that was discussed, was we really need fields in this town, and we're getting away from that. I think we're focusing on this now, where there's no focus on building fields at all, and we really need to get back to that.
And if I may, I think I would push back a little bit on the context that we're getting away from building fields. There is certainly a desire for more fields in the community, and there's certainly locations where that will fit and where we are planning for that. You can pull up the capital improvement plan and say, hey, look, there's additional fields in there. I think Rocky mentioned earlier that Lakeview Park is looking to move to its second phase. We're looking at a Copper Sky expansion for the future as well. And those may be places that are better suited for sports parks. I think that's the concept for some of these different type of parks that were mentioned earlier, that some are meant to be this kind of district park, or some are meant to be more of a larger scale sports park, where you have a lot of the tournaments or fields or what have you, and all of those can work together. But this park has always been, for our direction, we've been given, is to have it be an iconic park, a destination park, a tourism park, serve a little bit different purpose, and have some unique amenities. While obviously, they mentioned that there may be some pickleball courts, or there may be some basketball courts, or maybe, the pump track or whatever else. There's a balance, and I think finding, as you're saying, finding the balance is the appropriate thing to do. And future East Side Park, more fields out there, I'm sure. And then what does it look like in terms of the assets that we have in our community? NUSD has great fields, and how do we open up the access to those? And can we use all these taxpayer assets as best we can, so that we're maximizing the taxpayer dollar, but also maximizing the taxpayer benefit?
As long as this is happening in parallel with adding new fields, it'd be great.
Yeah, I'm not walking, but I am chewing gum right now. So that's the fun. I think we have to do a lot of things at the same time. And obviously 347 is a huge priority for us. We can't just put that aside because, hey, there's also a park that needs to be discussed. We're going to continue working on 347 and some of those issues. We're going to continue working on policing and fire service and emergency services, all of those things. I mean, we've got a great team of staff, whether it's a police chief or a fire chief or a parks and rec director, a transportation public works director. We have all of these different teams because we necessarily have to focus on a lot of things at the same time. And so that really is, and I think you're spot on. The name of the game is balance, and finding a way to get as much as we can with the limited resources that we do have.
Kevin, I love your comment. Can we do these in parallel? Can we do things? Yeah, I mean, it's huge, it's important. And so I think the master plan and the details that come out of that will work well in determining what priority is given on all of those elements. But I also love the fact that you're a field guy. I raised 2 ball players that went all the way through college playing, so I'm a big proponent for fields. But what I have noticed in terms of all my conversations, in terms of a lot of the feedback online, is exactly what you said when you first started talking. The pump track, the things like the ninja course, the splash pad. Oh my gosh. If I read one comment about a splash pad, I read thousands of comments about a splash pad. That's huge. And if it's free, which I'm assuming it would be free, yeah, I mean, we don't know at this point, but I'm assuming it would be free. We don't have a free splash pad anywhere here in the community currently. But the pump track, the zip line, so if any of you don't know, Rocky, I guess, is an expert in PPPs. I've given you a title, Rocky. And so the idea that we could do PPPs and not be on the taxpayers for zip lines or some of these elements is really exciting as well. Councilmember Manfredi asked to speak next, please.
Great presentation. One of the important things that was just mentioned, and you mentioned fields. I mean, my daughter's played on every field in this city over the course of soccer, softball, flag football, and everything else they've done. So, of course we need fields. We need a lot of them. And we've been talking about fields for years now. And there'll be more fields because like Ben mentioned, Copper Sky will be expanded in the future. There's state land next to it. Some of that land will become Copper Sky extensions, which will have more fields there. There'll be fields on the east side of town as that grows and those parks grow, as well as the parks at Lakeview, and those are going to get at least 3 more fields. I have some ideas that I talked to Rocky about, which would make more than 3 fields there, but smaller, for infield practice and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff going on. So fields is one thing. This park is a different thing. Right? And I seen somebody online say, why don't we fix the 347 first? And this money is not 347 money. Why don't we, hire more police officers? This money's not police officer money. It's not public safety money. And there's different piles and different pockets of money for many different things. Our development that happens in the city of Maricopa, we have what's called development impact fees. Development impact fees pay for a lot of different things like public safety, library that we're sitting in today, which was paid for with cash, the city council and facilities, police stations and fire stations. The city sits in a really great situation where we're not a debt-filled city. And something like this, from conversations I've had, it's not something where we're gonna go out and bond for it and get into debt. It's going to be a piecemeal thing that we put together over time, using cash to pay for it, development impact fees to pay for it. In the same way we would pay for more fields, the same way we would pay for more police stations, fire stations, as well as probably another library sometime in the future. So there's all of those things that have to get done. And we as a community have to work on them all at the same time. So we can't say we're building this and we're not going to build fields. We're going to build fields. We're building this. We're not going to give police and fire raises and new buildings. We're going to do that too. We're going to do everything that has to get done. So the conversation today about this park is separate from the conversations about a lot of the other stuff, because it's not either or, right? It's not we'll do this and not that stuff. We'll do this and all of that stuff with it. And as a community, we can't forget the sports fields. We can't forget what happens when you have 15, 20 teams coming into the city of Maricopa to play lacrosse. I mean, we have a car wash that was first started in the city of Maricopa because a guy brought his kid down here for a lacrosse tournament and said, "You don't have a car wash?" And then eventually a car wash started. It was pretty crazy. And then the 2 of them, then he sold them and somebody else owns them now. But that's how those things happen. It's because people come to the community. So I probably talked too much. But the reality is, it's juggling everything. Everything's going to be up in the air over the next 10, 20, 30 years. And we're going to be doing everything that needs to get done because the people are not going to stop coming to the city of Maricopa. The houses are not going to get stopped being built, and people are going to keep coming. And just what's going to happen south of the city is crazy. And everything that's going on, we're going to grow and everything's gonna get done. Thank you.
Thank you. So 3 council members have spoke and only 1 Parks and Rec. Come on. All right, Devin, I love it. Perfect.
Okay, so speaking as a citizen, I want this tomorrow. You know, I work from home and I spend 95% of my life here in Maricopa. So the thought that I could enjoy something like this without even having to leave and further not having to go on the 347, amazing. This is where Kevin and I will see a little differently on the fields. You know, to me, I do see a lot of fields in town. Like, I'm not a sports guy at all. So, you know, I don't really care about fields, to be honest with you. I want to see more fun things to do. I want to see more trails. I love to walk around the city. As someone who lives in Sorrento, so I'm on the east side, there is nothing. The walkability is not there. So to have something like this that close would be phenomenal. I know that we've talked about doing the restaurant row, you know, just here across the street. So I could definitely see something like this being beneficial to the city, of getting something like that restaurant row and really building out the city center that I know the city really wants to build out. So this is really exciting. I don't think I've ever been more excited to see something like this in all of the years that I've been like closely following the stuff that the city is looking at doing. So, but I do want to say, like, I do agree that we do need more fields, but I would love to see something more exciting for the majority of citizens here. Like, I don't know, I'm, again, not a sports guy, but I feel like most people aren't concerned about fields. They're concerned a little bit more about stuff like this. So I think this is going to check the box for a lot of people.
Thank you. Councilor North? Oh, Councilor Leonard.
I agree that I wouldn't want to go into debt for this. I think we would do it in stages so that we're putting it in the budget. And then City Manager Bitter, you said fields on the East Side Park, but I would really like a rodeo for the East Side Park. So let's think about rodeo for the East Side.
Love it. Rodeos are fun. So I just want to reiterate that I don't feel comfortable commenting on this until I understand what the price is and what it does to our budget on an ongoing basis. I think that's critically important because we have so many competing priorities that we've all talked about. And once you build something like this, you're stuck with it and you have to maintain it. Stuck isn't, you're blessed with it, however you want to say it. But this looks expensive to maintain, every single portion of it. I also am concerned about the potential for it attracting homelessness, but that's something I think that needs to be considered because, if I was homeless, I'd want to live there. Seriously. And thankfully I'm not today, but in terms of the public-private partnerships, I also want to make sure we're careful on those because I don't want to build a zip line with city money or build a rock wall with city money that a private business then gets to charge people to use because they have not invested into the facility. They're just basically profiting off of taxpayers. And, the duck boats are great, but I was there Tuesday and they weren't open. And the city put in that infrastructure and on Tuesday I couldn't ride a boat. And so I just want to be very careful as we talk about public-private partnerships going forward, that we're not building facilities that private entities get to profit off of. I really want to be leery in terms of that. And then in terms of future fields, because Council Member Manfredi brought this up, we talk about the Copper Sky expansion, but I'm not comfortable banking on that for future fields because it's state land, and state land goes up for auction. It's the only way it can be sold, and to the highest bidder. And so we literally have no guarantees that we are going to be able to expand Copper Sky. That we can hope that state land puts it up for bid. We can hope that the developer that wants to work with us to expand Copper Sky gets it, but I mean, that's not likely. A lot of times state land goes up for auction and the person who wants it doesn't get it because somebody comes in and bids it up. And so again, that's why I think Rocky's, what do you call it? I didn't write that down. Private, public, yeah, the assessment, the needs assessment. It was a really cool logo, I like it. Yeah, why I think that's so important before we make any decisions, because I think we need to understand what we have available to us, what we truly have available to us, and how we're going to fit all the needs of the community into that as we go forward, because I just don't feel comfortable banking on auctions off state land. And then finally, I just think I love the idea, and honestly, this is gonna be better than any park in the state.
Yes.
Like, it's better than McCormick Ranch, it's better than Gilbert's Park, it's better than any park I've ever seen, honestly. But we also are always telling the community, we have a small budget, we don't have a lot of money because we don't have a lot of sales tax, we have sales tax leakage. And so I just wanna be real careful as we go forward, because like, if we build this, it looks like we have a lot of money. Looks like we have tons of money. And so I just want to make sure that what we're saying to the community is reflected in the decisions we're making. That's all.
The good news, I guess, when you look at it, is that we mentioned that we don't want to make any decisions before we know prices, or we're not making a decision, right? We're looking at exactly what's possible. And when you're looking at what's possible, you want to know everything that's possible. So eventually we'll know a price, and it could be $80 million, $100 million, right? And we will know that price, but it's what parts of it can be done at what costs and how you break it down. And we do a 10-year capital improvement plan now, so it could be over 10 years, and then in the 10th year we can go into 20 years. So it could be a long-term project, but you don't get to anything unless you start thinking about what could be possible. And if we worried about how we appear sometimes, we wouldn't have Copper Sky today. I mean, I remember when Copper Sky was a phased plan, and we were worried about each little step of it and each $1 million we would spend in Copper Sky and how it would go. And we were just coming out of a recession at that point, and it was a really hard time. Thankfully, we had a bond in place, and that was able to do some stuff. But even when Copper Sky was starting to break ground and the conversation of Copper Sky was happening, half of Copper Sky was not planned. It just wasn't going to happen. It was going to be a phased plan for Copper Sky. And our mayor at the time, Christian, he and others in the city and on the board and on the council made that decision. It was a tough decision at the time. It was, let's do it. And we're gonna have dump trucks out there. We're gonna have plows out there. Let's move forward. And we were able to move forward with Copper Sky. But if we worried about every little thing before the planning process even took place, we would never have planned it. We would never got to that point. So today, thankfully, we're not raising our hand, we're not voting, and we're not budgeting for it. Today we're saying, it looks good. I think, yeah, let's talk about it. All right, and that's what we're going to do. Is over the next couple of months, years, we're going to talk about it, and that's the plan. So no decisions today, no budgeting today, no worry about slashing fields because we're going to build this thing, or fire and police because we got to get some money to get this park. None of that stuff's going to happen. Budgeting's not happening. Today we're just talking about, does it look good? I think it looks good. Let's talk about it more.
City Manager Bitter.
Thanks. I think another thing, Jeff mentioned as well, the public-private partnerships, and we talked a little bit about that. That's not the only revenue type of source that could come here. Obviously, with the restaurants on that southeast corner under this scenario, we would sell land to them. And because of this amenity, that land would be valuable. So there would be a return for some sale of land, but also there are other ways that could be ongoing mechanisms to help fund some of this. You could look at, what is common across Arizona is entertainment districts. So often, for example, you go to Chase Field area, and anything within a certain radius of that is within that entertainment district that helps to fund some of Chase Field improvements or whatever the footprint arena is named now. I can't even keep track of all the different names it has. But all of those different facilities in that district are you help offset the maintenance costs through that entertainment district. And so something could be similar, not just for the restaurants on this site, but all along the restaurant row, and to continue, we own all of the land in this area right now that fronts Bolin Road. And so it'd be an easy opportunity for us to say, hey, we could put an entertainment district here. And when we attract restaurants or whatever retail locations to the site, because we have enriched their site because of this great new amenity, they're going to help pitch in to maintain that great new amenity. So just a concept, but those are the types of things that we could look at as well to help kind of offset some of those costs.
Yeah, and I think that's a great focus in terms of cost is very important. I'm going to say that again. Cost is very important, but there's a big umbrella of what can be done to offset that cost. And it can be the financial district. It can be all of the restaurant row, the economic development. All of these things are offsetting costs for, and again, I go back to a pump track, I'll pass on the amphitheater because that sounds like that's concern for someone. Splash pad, and then the PPPs. So Rocky, since I've defined you as the PPP king, you could also do a PPP for ball fields. I've seen it done. And so it doesn't have to be the city that puts in ball fields. We could do a PPP for ball fields. So I just wanted to bring that up. And then after you speak, James would like to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and council members. So yeah, the PP3s or P3s, public-private partnerships. When I saw this project for the first time, I thought, wow, there's a lot of opportunities for that. That was something we did when I worked in Gilbert, is we always had park plans set aside on each of our parks projects. And later on, once the park develops, we can bring in those private businesses to bring more amenities that they build, and they provide the community, they maintain. We don't have any part of it. We just either charge them rent, or we get a portion of their tax proceeds. And when you start looking at that retail component and things around that lake, like if you had a family and you went and saw the splash pad in that playground, why would you not want to walk across the lake and have dinner there? Yeah. Or visit a shop or things like that? And it's really Maricopa's kind of opportunity to have that district feel to it that some of these other communities that are really landmarks, and not just drive park amenities, but business buildings, retail, uses the community. And I just wanted to mention about districts, why my district is really, really thoughtful right now. I had a lot of responsibilities in downtown Gilbert, and we did not have a district set up, and we were not the primary property owner. And we were trying desperately to put that toothpaste space back in the tube, because we had so many maintenance costs. We were building parking garages. We were maintaining all of these sidewalks and roads, cleaning them off daily. We had to take care of all the trash for all these restaurants, and we had no district set up. And we were trying to get all these private businesses to vote to create a district so we could collect money to cover our costs, and they didn't want that. But by thinking ahead and knowing, hey, there are going to be businesses here someday, there are going to be private companies here, let's establish the district while we have control, and then they know when they come and develop that this is what they are participating in. So,
thank you, Rocky. James, please.
Yeah, first of all, I love the idea. I just want to know, has there been an environmental impact study, and will this increase or decrease property value, these types of developments?
Call it the city manager. City manager.
Yeah, so I guess maybe go a little bit back in history even further than we did, but when the city bought this land in 2008, it was bought from Fulton Homes. And so it was originally scheduled to be houses all in this area. And, we were sitting in our city hall over in trailers over by where the county facility is now, and our city council at that time had some great foresight to say, hey, you know what, we could make this better than just rooftops. Rooftops are necessary, it's important, but we could do something better. And so really the concerns for this area, and when we did property purchases, we always do environmental studies and those kind of things as part of that. Really the biggest concern for this site right now is and this isn't just the iconic park site, but where we're sitting as well. A lot of this is within the floodplain. And so a lot of the discussions that we've been having, kind of, I guess, another thing that we walk and chew gum on is floodplain solutions. We've worked with FEMA over the course of the last about 5 years to come up with a regional floodplain solution that will solve a lot of the flooding potential that could exist throughout Maricopa. And so we finally got an approval from FEMA as it relates to a concept. Now we have to develop that plan and then build some of the structures that would be necessary to kind of contain the water. So right now you drive over the Santa Rosa Wash and you can tell it's a wash. There's a bridge that goes over it if you're on Honeycutt or if you're on Smith Inc. And you say, okay, here's a wash, and I can see kind of this corridor in the walls, and there may be some water flowing down the middle sometimes. You don't feel that same when you go over the Santa Cruz Wash, which if you just go down Bowling Road here, you just kind of feel the dips and you go up and down. A little bit on Honeycutt, there is one bridge there that you go over, and that kind of solves that aspect. But right now, the Santa Cruz Wash is largely uncontained. And so that's part of the reason why when you head east out of City Hall here, there aren't homes for a mile. And then Sorrento and Rancho Mirage pop up, and that's part of the reason why, is because there's still this need to find a flood solution. And so we've got that engineering work done. We're working on a solution to find how to fund the construction of that. And again, similar to many other things, it's one of the hats, and we've got some great experts on the team working on that. So that, I think, is the biggest concern today is that flood solution. When we get that flood solution in place, it solves some of the concerns around the City Hall side. It obviously solves the Santa Cruz Wash, because that would be channelized and then go north, and a lot of future development could occur because that wash would be channelized. And so those, I think, are really the biggest concerns, but it's a great piece of land. I actually pulled the sale document today just to double check the dates, and city got it for 50 cents a square foot. So it was $3 million for the 120 acres that's here. And now we have a city hall, a library, a police department, and a municipal court, and a future iconic park, and we sold off a chunk for the apartments on the north side. So it's been a tremendous investment for the city already, with a return on the cash, but that's not the most important thing. The absolute value for this is the return and the value for our community, to have all of these amenities here in one location, truly kind of enacting that village center concept that was developed in 2014, and continue to move that forward and being a gathering place for our community. So I think that's the coolest part.
Are these developments raised or lower?
Yeah, thank you. So going back to the second part of the question, this one only stretches this far.
Okay.
So, but the second part of the question, raise or lower property values, I think anytime you add a desirable amenity to the community, you're seeing property values increase.
Very good question, James. I don't know. Okay, there we go. Okay, Vice Mayor, wait.
Good evening, and thank you very much, Mayor, for this opportunity, and thank you guys for your presentation. Appreciate it. We've done a lot of different projects over the years, and the years I've been on council. Some of them have panned out, and some of them have been so well. I mentioned getting served. And so what do we have to offer to the community? Again, we're going to try something major to develop it, and of course it is for the benefit of the constituents, it's for the benefit of the community. But what do we have in this project that would be able to make them more comfortable and trusting?
More comfortable, sorry, I missed the last one.
More comfortable and as trusting to move forward in this project.
Yeah,
Because cost concerns, I think it's been big today also. But what else do we have that would be good?
well, I appreciate you bringing this up, because it allows me an opportunity to use my visual aid that I brought. So this is our capital improvement plan. I use it as my pillow at night. But when we look at this, and as was mentioned a little bit earlier, we look 10 years into the future. That's our goal for trying to determine what we can possibly accomplish in the next 10 years. And so when we look at the plan today, and we say, well, what do we actually have funded this year? So we have in fiscal year 26, which we're in, it runs July 1st to June 30th. We look at that plan, we say, oh, okay, we've got some master plan work on this, or we've got some design work on the Lakeview Park, or we've got design work on widening State Route 238, or some new traffic signals, or some new trails. All of these different things are in the plan for this year. But what's next year, and what's the year after, and what's the year after that? And so when we look in our capital improvement plan, we have $30 million plugged into that plan for next year for construction of the iconic park. Now, does that mean that's going to happen? I don't know. I mean, That's the glory of coming back to the plan every year and making sure that those priorities are still in place and those are still the goals and the strategies of the council. But I think when the community, to answer the question directly, when the community can look at a document and can go on our website and pull up that capital improvement plan and say, okay, they're planning for the future, they're looking at it, and they're starting to figure out a way to pay for it. I think that is the trust that we can earn with the community as we build those items that are particularly in our plan this year. And as we continue to make progress on those projects, that's how we develop the trust, because we're doing what we said we'd do.
Thank you, City Manager. Councilmember Marsh.
Good job, good engineering, good creativity, thanks. Seniors own this town, Monday through Friday, 8 to 6. I'd like to see some features that could keep seniors from getting into trouble. Like the teens running free after school. Shade trees, sunshades over the benches and tables, some stuff like that. On the revenue generating side, you can put in a lot of electric vehicles and charging stations. It's convenience for the owners. It gives them something to do. They can take advantage of the park for 3 hours while their Teslas are charging. Vendors, restaurants, shops, performance spaces. I'd like to see multiple performance spaces, stages with seating area or grassy areas, slanted to sit, whatever, so that the creative people in the town can put on performances for 50 people, 100 people, 500 people, maybe 1,000. Also, I just got back from Las Vegas, where I saw Wizard of Oz in the Sphere, and I'm fascinated with the technology in the Sphere. The people who run that business say it's bringing in $1 billion this year. $1 billion. They're looking to do 16 more spheres around the country. I'm not saying let's go for that, but perhaps we could work with them on a scaled down version of the sphere, so that instead of 3,000 people inside, it could hold maybe 1,000 or 500, and we could use the outside of the sphere for entertainment, or adapt the technology to work on your cloud. But it'd be worth a phone call and a meeting to talk with the sphere people. Yeah, I like the fact that there's no non-productive turf here. Maricopa subdivisions classically have flood basins combined with recreation area, and they put in turf. And before they had reclaimed water here, all our subdivisions watered their turf with potable water. And I'm a partner with the Sonoran Institute, and we're working on getting reclaimed water going more around the state and converting turf basins to xeriscape basins. So I like the fact that you have xeriscape where it's appropriate, and you get turf where it's appropriate, and it's productive turf. So good engineering. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Councilmember Marsh. All right, Councilmember Gettle would like to speak, but he can be long-winded. So, I'm just kidding, but I wanted to turn it over and see if any other Parks and Rec folks would like to speak, because I certainly would love to give you the opportunity as well. And Councilmember Gettle, I'm sorry, had to make that joke. I'll come back to you.
Yeah, I was going to keep it short.
Live up to your reputation.
Does anyone want to speak? Oh,
I have
please.
some questions back to me.
Oh, no, go ahead.
He might trigger another question and answer them.
Oh, that's all we need is another question trigger. Just teasing. Okay, Councilmember Gettle, they gave you the right of way.
Thank you. And a lot of the questions and concerns that I've had here have already very eloquently expressed, and I appreciate my fellow council members for doing that for us and the input that we've had from our committee. Great presentation again, and super exciting to hear I want to just re-echo something that Councilmember Manfredi said that I think is really the important thought tonight. We have to dream. If we're not dreaming, we're not going to build. I have this beautiful dream of a cabin somewhere in 40 acres in the White Mountains, and if I don't have that dream, I'm also not going to start a plan to get us there. So that's maybe my first question, is we've got a great dream. What are some of our next steps looking forward? I imagine this is going to involve some future plans in the future. You're already looking towards funding and how to get that done. Rocky, maybe that's part of also our parks and recreation needs assessment. We might play into a little bit of some of these elements that we're going to want to build here in this park. So do you have a timeline on that, and what might be some of our next steps moving forward then?
Yeah, Councilmember Gettle. I think really what we're looking for ultimately tonight is some direction to move forward with a site plan. And when I say that, it means going from that 30,000 foot view to really more of a granular view of what some of the amenities might be. And that process can be pretty flexible. If that's a process that takes 6 months or a year, then it takes 6 months or a year for us to get it right. I think that's the goal, is make sure if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And so that means looking at feasibility, looking at funding options, looking at materials and ability to actually construct what we have dreamed. Because we don't want to get the cabin in the White Mountains and just buy the land and not have any money to build the cabin. And so really what we're trying to do is just figure out what that next step would be by looking at the feasibility on a more granular level.
And Mr. Brown, do you have a timetable on the needs assessment?
Yeah, Councilmember, I think it's something we can do in tandem with this project as it goes through the master plan. I don't really see a lot of amenities on here that aren't already checking off boxes for assessment. So I think we can kick it off in tandem, hopefully after the beginning of the year, and work on it for 6 months, maybe while in the background they're also working on this plan. So kind of doing it in tandem.
A couple other thoughts I wanted to share, if I can still hang on to the mic. Is that all right?
Please.
Okay. We scheduled this meeting here tonight to kind of share that vision and dream and talk about this. Can we do something similar when it comes to our sports fields? Maybe it's a presentation to our committee. Give a little bit more of a timeline. We talked about dreaming and the state land, but can we start seeing some concrete plans of how we're moving forward to those additional fields in the city?
100%. I think that's really one of the key goals of that strategic plan, is to talk through what are the needs assessments and what are the possibilities. And we do have some grasp of that, based off of other cities that maybe 150,000 population, 200,000 population, what are the needs for cities as they get to those sizes? And so we have some of that information, but where it goes and what other amenities are going to be needed and how the future changes are all part of those discussions that we kind of take and have those conversations with the community and say, what is it that you need and what do you think that we're going to need? But I think that's absolutely part of that strategic planning process. That'll certainly involve our Parks and Rec Advisory Committee. That'll certainly involve public and community meetings, and we really want to have that input from the public, because we don't build the city in a neighborhood. We are all invested in this community as residents and want to make sure that we have the right amenities at the right time.
Very good. My last comment here tonight is I'd be remiss if I don't represent my constituents, and I put that out there, and I've received a ton of feedback, very helpful feedback. One of the most enjoyable parts of that feedback is I was able to be with Priscilla here at Desert Winds even this afternoon, where we had close to maybe about 100 youth teams participate, and I just asked them, what do you want to see? And so they wrote down some great ideas on their sticky notes. Those are back in the back corner if anybody wants to just kind of peruse all of those responses. You'll be interested to know one of the most asked for aspects of the new park is a zip line. And here we are talking about zip lines today, so it's pretty cool to hear from those kids. Also, I'm sure James Singleton will have my ear if I don't mention that a beautiful Olympic-sized pool would look so great along that eastern edge of that lake. And maybe even some diving platforms. If this is going to be swimmable lake anyway, why don't we dive into it? I mean, that'd be kind of awesome. But I don't know, James, if that fits into your plans or not. But building in some aquatic parts to, I don't know if it fits here, but that might be another conversation for our Parks and Rec Committee to have is how does that a sports complex, an aquatics complex, fit into our future plans with recreation and sports here in the city.
I think great points, and keep in mind, this is a vision. It is a vision. It doesn't mean it's the vision, and it doesn't mean this is all that there will be or could be at the site. And so I think we take feedback and we can plug things in, and as we get into that site planning, that's where we flush out some more of those details. But absolutely, anything is on the table, and then it's up to us to trying to figure out if it's something that we can actually make happen. And that's our goal. Is we want to increase the quality of life in our community. We want to add to the joy. We want to make people happier, and frankly, have a great sense of pride for the community. When they're driving around the country or around the state, and they say, "Yeah, I'm from Maricopa. Isn't that where that awesome park is?" Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And not just the park, but we have some great businesses. We have some great schools. We have great youth groups, whatever it may be. Let us talk to you about Maricopa, and then you'll want to come down too. So I think it's really just another entryway for people to have pride in their community.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, Councilmember Gettle, thank you very much. You didn't take too long at all. But I did notice he's filling up your plate as well, Rocky, with a PPP for an Olympic-sized swimming pool. I mean, we just keep adding to it. Okay, I would like to turn it over to Priscilla with some questions and comments if you'd like.
Okay, the water in the swimmable lake, that sounds disgusting to me. Is that actually a pool?
No.
And how, and the water, like, is that, I guess, yeah, like, is that sustainable?
Yeah, so excellent question. Yeah, it would not be a swimmable lake. We've had lots of discussions with city staff. Just from the health, safety, welfare aspect of it, it would be an urban fishing lake.
Okay.
Fish in it. There's different,
Okay, I misunderstood.
Yeah, we heard that. David's just staring at me and glaring at me, but yeah, all those things can be discussed. But yeah, from a swimming standpoint, that would be tough from a water quality.
Okay.
Anything swimmable, great.
Everything's swimmable to a certain extent.
Yeah, for shots.
I'm not brave, okay. All right, so that, I don't have to ask any questions about water costs, okay. I guess my next question was the amphitheater, this cloud, it looks really cool. And if I understand correctly, you guys are hoping to make money for the community by having concerts, and is that what that was?
It's just an idea.
It would be open for large performances.
Like when you say large, what do you mean? Do you mean like Matt Rife will come out and sell at a show with Brian Adams, or are we gonna get stuck with Soldier Boy and Leanne Rimes forever?
I was at the Leanne Rimes show, it wasn't too bad. Yeah, I think it's up to...
Oh, I'm Team Brandy, sorry.
I guess it's up for what city staff and council and everybody want to bring in, right? I think it's a large scale community gathering space for the open turf area. And, you could close off parking lots on the west side of the park and have more spectators over there as well. I think it's...
Like, Anna, if you hazard a guess, how many people could fill that, like, who are we gonna get as guests coming to fill the show?
Yeah, probably.
You tell me Matt Rife, I'll believe them on the economic development. But if you tell me, Leanne Rimes, I'm going to laugh at you.
2,000 to 5,000, and it's easily, yeah.
But it's scalable based on if they're local groups that are coming in, then if you want to bring outside groups. But I think that's part of some of the stuff we were talking about. We work with groups that can tell you who would come through, what the sizes are, what the economic benefits are. So I think that's part of what we want to, hopefully, if we get the chance, is to dive deeper into that and fine tune it for your community, what makes sense here.
Okay, so how many months is it feasible to use? Like how many months would artists and entertainers want to come out and use it? I mean, is it 5 months of some economic development, or, I mean, there's a month I don't leave my house unless I have to.
8 months.
It's a great question, and things that we've been talking about as a team, the reason for shade, the reason for using the water, the evaporative nature of it. If we can extend, and we've done this on projects throughout the valley, where we can actually extend. Now, we're not going to be in the middle of July and August, probably not going to be a whole lot, but we can extend the usable time. If we provide the shade, the breezes, the evaporative cooling, if call it psychometrics, where we can actually dial those things in. But that would be the goal, is to refine the design such that it can be used a lot more throughout the year.
All right, and then I'm told no all the time because we have a finite amount of resources. So a budget would be nice, I guess, from someone who's being told no. I mean, if I'm being told no, so Matt Rife can come, maybe. But also I heard a lot that we were talking to city staff, what efforts are you going to make to talk to the community to make sure that this is what the community wants? And I know this is a start because we're supposed to represent the community, but yeah, I'd like to know what the efforts will be there.
Yeah, I think a few, and this is obviously, as we've talked before, has been a long time in the making. And this is meant to be an iconic destination. So we've gotten direction in the past, and we'll continue to receive direction. The reason we have a meeting like this is so that we can get more direction. We take all the feedback that we can receive, and we want it, however, and in as many ways as possible. And then we filter that out and say, well, what can we do with all of this? Because, you know, we've seen there's put a zip line in, and that's probably a pie in the sky, and maybe there's a way to get it done. And so I think the hard part is taking all of that and filtering it down and saying, well, what is actually right and what is actually possible, and how do we move forward from that point? And that's part of the hard job that, you know, we give to these guys a little bit, and we throw to our brilliant staff and let them have an opportunity to take a shot at it and say, okay, we've got these funds and we've got these opportunities to get these funds, and we've got opportunity to sell off a little bit of land here and fund this project, or, you know, we look at all of these different sources and we throw it all in the mixing pot. What can we get? And so I think all of that's still on the table. All of it is open, we're open, and I think for this process in particular, as if we were to move forward with the site planning, that would be something we'd certainly be coming back to the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee on a regular basis, probably a regular agenda item as we're moving forward as well.
And City Manager, just to further provide some more details, what I'm kind of hearing, which when we're ready to finish up, I'll kind of get the general consensus, because we're not here for a vote, we're here for just direction, providing direction. But what I'm hearing this leaning toward is, yes, let's move forward in parallel, two items, the master plan and the iconic park, and over the next 6 to 12 months. And part of what I saw for the master plan was a community survey, which would be huge, because if it's anything like what I'm seeing out on Facebook, as we've been saying throughout the night, many of these things are going to pop up quite frequently. The splash pad, I think, is going to be number one. But anyway, I think they go in parallel, work perfectly and beautifully together, and we can move forward and receive resident feedback as well. Does that help?
Yeah, and you guys promised that the fields would be parallel. I think, yeah, I would like to make sure that, you know, kids can play.
Well, it's part of the master plan, for sure. Yes, yes. All right, who else? Yes, Adam.
Would the cloud potentially be a PPP microphone? Maybe would the cloud be a PPP potentially?
There's always a possibility for everything. You know, we have our city engineer is renowned for saying that you can do anything with time and money. And I don't know how that applies to this, but I like the city.
All I know is Rocky's going to be busy.
but I think as they mentioned, you know, how we interface this, and if we put LEDs on the side, and if there's ability for video screens, you know, could you monetize video screens? Well, I don't know, that's a possibility, right? But what would the policy be that would prohibit the misuse of that and ensure that it's going to serve the benefit of the community? Because ultimately, you know, there's no sense in entering a public-private partnership that doesn't benefit the end user, which is our resident. And so if it's going to be something that benefits the resident and can offset some of the cost to the resident, that's a fantastic thing to look at, and that's kind of your baseline for if you move forward. So I think we'd welcome any of that type of conversation. We'll look at whether it's the cloud or any other aspect, if it makes sense for our residents to, you know, have that in place.
I would think Canes would be like open to have that concerts, they can host them there and stop at their beach to get them instead of these cities, so I think there would be a huge upside for that. And the overall maintenance as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Manfredi.
Before, I like a P4.
He's actually the one that can be wrong.
Sorry, I am. I like a P4, a profitable public-private partnership, right? So it has to be profitable to the people, right? Some of the stuff might not be over time and it'll go away eventually, maybe, who knows? But the reality is, by planning well in advance, we can have those public-private partnerships where the private builds it and then runs it, instead of like we have at Copper Sky with the dock and stuff. And then they bought the boats. We didn't buy the boats, right? So they bought the boats and they brought them in, but we built the dock. But when you're starting early enough and talking to people, they'll build the dock and they'll bring the boats, right? So that's the goal, is to look at it and take a long-term view of it and go from there. And then something else, Priscilla mentioned just a second ago, how are we gonna get public participation? This meeting's not that, right? And Facebook, I love Facebook, sometimes I hate Facebook, sometimes I should stay off of Facebook. But the reality is, Facebook is not the end goal of public participation. And what we saw when Henry was on P&Z back then is when we were doing Copper Sky, there was a lot of public participation. There was a lot of public meetings that we had. I remember the stickers, but it was adults, not kids doing them. But we also had Kids Day stickers, and kids will bring them up, where we took the pulse of the community. And the reality is, Copper Sky went from being a phased Copper Sky to being the whole Copper Sky, because we looked at how many things people wanted. And what they wanted was the little bike track, or skate park, not bike track, sorry, the skate park. They wanted the dog park to come in. They didn't want to wait 2 years for a dog park and all of that stuff. So the conversations are going to be had, and the people are going to have their say. And in the end, that's who we represent. So the people are going to choose what's at this park, not us, right? Not you, not me. You know, we're going to make the final decisions on budgeting, but the people are going to choose what's going to be there, because what elected officials hear what the people want and say, forget it, let's do this instead. Right, so the people are going to be heavily involved in it. So that's a good thing.
Thank you. Devin, I saw you took the mic. What would you like to say?
Yes. Just wanted to say a couple other things. So one of the concerns that I have is I've seen projects that are not city run, so like the Phoenix Surf, for example, where they show a plan, it's this big amazing thing, everyone's super hyped, then it was cut in half, and now it's kind of half of what it was supposed to be, and now haven't heard anything about it in a while. And so we're calling this an iconic park. And so one of the things that I just really would hate to see is we're talking about maybe doing it in a phased approach. Like Councilmember Gettle was saying about dreaming big. I just would be really sad to see us see something like this, and then it's cut in half. It's in phases to the point where it's like, it's 10 years, 15 years out where that's when it's gonna be done. So I think if we're gonna talk about something like this, I would hope that we have a plan to know that this is gonna be done in like a timely manner in certain phases, so that way we kind of know what we're getting from the start, if that makes sense. And then, Mayor, you were talking about the splash pad. As someone in Sorrento with a splash pad that a lot of the city comes to and use because it is free, I can attest that a lot of people will use a splash pad. So, yeah, I think that's the remainder of what I wanted to say.
Very good, thank you. Who else would like to say a final thought? Yes, Ken, please.
Yeah, hi. I really love the overall concept. I surveyed some of my neighbors, my neighborhood, about coming to this meeting. And some of those ideas already incorporated in this, except for one of my neighbors wants an archery range because he's a real archery nut. And I see a little spot in that northeast corner. We might be able to accommodate something like that. But I love that. I was thinking about the amphitheater. And the city I moved from, I've been here 2.5 years, they built a performing arts center. And when it's open to the outside, it's very deep stage, very nice, it's covered for the artist, and then it's an amphitheater, can seat a few thousand. But in colder times, hot summer months, it can be closed off. The outside of that theater becomes, that open area becomes a wall, becomes an indoor theater. And you can sell it to comedy acts and smaller acts and seats a few hundred. So it's a way to maximize the use of that space and say, hey, for a few months out of the year, we just can't use it. And so it'd be either heated or cooled for those inclement weather times. But just throwing that out there, it's just a way to maximize that space and to use that all year long.
Very good. Okay. So as I indicated just a minute ago, I kind of hear a common theme here that we move forward in giving the staff direction on a master plan and proceeding with was it a site plan? Site plan for this that gives us more definition. And they probably will run in, well, they will run in parallel hopefully, but they probably will have similar aspects of it. Okay. So I'm looking from, let's first go to the Parks and Rec Committee. In general, are you agreeable to giving the staff direction to move forward on those two elements? Yeah. When we're looking for direction, you just normally do a heads nod. Yeah, okay.
As long as we're not losing sight of other things.
Gotcha. In parallel. Walking and chewing at the same time. Kevin, I love it. Okay, council. How do you feel in general? Are you comfortable moving forward? Yes, okay, I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember North.
I just, again, have to reiterate that I don't know what moving forward means. And I'm also concerned, Devin, with what you said about how we show the community this, and then let's say we get a price tag back and it's $125 or $150 million. And I know I would be not for that because there's other priorities that I feel are necessary that we need to move forward with. And so that's what concerns me. Like, I don't want to be like, yes, let's move forward with the site plan, knowing that if it comes back at the amount I think it's going to come back at, I'm going to be like maybe in 15 years, you know, or one phase at a time over the next 20 years with development impact fees, but not with general funds. Because we have so much, your pillow, for instance, has a lot of important things in it. And so I can't shake my head yes on saying move forward without that caveat.
Yeah, and I think that moving forward doesn't obligate us to anything other than more information to make that decision. And one last time, I just want to talk about the fact that a decision has to be made that combines potential economic benefit and cost and value to the community, all of those elements. We have to see it all together so that it's not all about, oh my gosh, whatever million, the price tag. It's about the whole picture that's really important for the community to understand. So I think in general, you've received direction, and City Manager Bitter, you have some closing comments.
Yeah, just, we, as I've mentioned, we love feedback. We love to incorporate everything that we can. Know that this venue didn't necessarily give an opportunity for public feedback, but we do have an opportunity for that. We've printed some cards. I think Jennifer and Quinn will have some of those that we can distribute to anyone here tonight. Happy to receive email feedback or in-person feedback, and we'll certainly have many opportunities with our Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, whether we're at Stagecoach Days or others, to get feedback on what the community is looking for. But by all means, feel free to write down that. We'd love to hear what your hopes and dreams are for the park, similar to what it sounds like happened this morning and with the kids in the community. And so love to have that feedback, and then we'll take that and try to do our best to incorporate everything into a site plan or a more detailed feasibility plan, where we can kind of come back and say, hey, this is what we've got. Are we on the right track again? So we'll move on to the next steps.
Very good, thank you. So thank you for your presentation. Staff, thank you for your presentation and the efforts put in. Parks and Rec Committee, thank you for being here tonight and your wonderful comments. And City Council, you all do a great job all the time, so thank you. I appreciate you all, and with that, I'm going to close this meeting.